And yes, that was difficult to watch and very, very difficult to process. And I think while I was watching it, the one comment, I'm still processing it at the moment, where they're saying it's all about having fun. Really, in the name of fun, you slaughter, you murder, uh, lions, they don't have a fair chance. Yes, if you're going hunting in the wild and those animals were bred in the wild, grew up in the wild, their instincts are sharp, they have defense mechanisms, and then you try and you hunt them down. Look, I have my views about hunting, and for me, especially hunting a lion, I'm totally against it. There's just no benefit in the greater scheme of things to go hunting. But that's that's just my personal view. But hunting lions in captivity, they were bred. They live in a closed enclosure. No time to hone in the natural animal skills, and then you want to hunt them down, put them out in a little space, and then you want to hunt them, and you say that's fun when you've got, as a human being, the greatest advantage and the disadvantage, and then you feel satisfaction that you have hunted and killed a lion. Shocking, shocking, shocking indeed. Still processing that, but I'm pleased there's a silver lining for that documentary. That documentary, by the way, was Blood Lions, which is currently airing on Showmax. And that documentary actually has been the catalyst that has made Environmental Minister Barbara Casey, on Sunday revealed plans to ban the breeding of lions in captivity for trophy hunting or for tourists to pet, advocating a more authentic experience for visitors. The decision was in response to recommendations contained in a government study into the controversial practice. Minister Creasy told a news conference that the study recommended a halt to the domestication of lions through captive breeding and keeping. As a tourism body calls for ban on captive lion breeding, petitions call on President Cyril Ramaphosa to halt big cat breeding as a tarnish by abuse of captive lion industry on World Lion Day, says watchdog groups reveal we don't want captive breeding, captive hunting, captive petting, captive use of lions, the minister said. The decision is yet to be formulated into policy, which is likely to set the government and well, this was coming, set the government on a collision course with the powerful multi-billion-dollar industry of captive lion breeding. So for me, the lion this whole lion awareness or the lion hunting, cane hunting, was actually brought to the fore in 2015. We remembered the famous lion Cecil that was killed just outside Zimbabwe's national park. And that was by American dentist Walter Palmer, who suffered then greatly. Even in USA, people boycotted his practice. I think his practice was vandalized, rightly so, as somebody who is a conservationist and very anti animal hunting for pleasure. I'm pleased that today joining us is the director, Ian Michler of Blood Lions. Uh, Ian, besides all his accolades and accomplishments as a specialist wilderness guide, consultant, environmental photojournalist, he contributes to magazine articles. He's very, very knowledgeable of the field. He's passionate about ecotourism, but for me, it's just his passion that drives him. He left a lucrative corporate job in stockbroking where he could have been a billionaire by now, but his passion drove him. He's laughing now because I know these documentaries are very, very costly to make, and you running and you're begging for funding so that they can get off the ground and they can reach the stage where they actually then featured on platforms such as Showmax. It's very, very difficult to do what Ian does. I think it takes a whole lifestyle change, but I'm pleased we have the world is richer for people as director Ian Michler out there. because it was his sterling documentary, which actually was a catalyst for this. And I think since it's viewed on Showmax, uh, more and more support's going to come so that we can get this promulgated into law as soon as possible. So, very, very good afternoon and a warm welcome and peace and blessings to you, Ian, and welcome to Salam Media.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for taking up this topic.
So tell me, I've seen just bits of the documentary. Would like to watch it soon. You know, with Ramadan, our time is very limited because it is the month and we're fasting and we have got certain times to break fast. So we're very, very governed by time currently. But once Ramadan is over, I would like to then watch the full documentary. But from the little that was shown now and the clips there, must have been a very difficult documentary to make as well.
Yes, this whole issue around captive breeding, can hunting, cub petting, the lion bone trade, very complex, lots of different aspects to it, many different people involved at different levels, from the government all the way through to the conservation agencies, welfare agencies, veterinarians, and then, of course, the breeders and the hunters themselves. But I think one of the aspects that makes it that much more difficult is that it's a very murky industry, this. And so a lot of the people involved don't want you to find out what is going on. They try and keep these dark practices undercover behind high fences. So still to this day, 20 years later, of my work in this industry, we still do not have an exact idea of how many farms out there are holding captive predators, and we don't know exactly how many predators are behind these high fences or these being kept in these cages. So that also makes it a very difficult film to make. And then, of course, the threats. So there are the physical threats, and then there's the legal threats, and there have been many of those since we launched Bloodlines. And then, the power of the vested interest. So these are people making a lot of money out of what they do. And so, as can be expected, there's a lot of pushback from the industry.
So, Ian, just to tell at the end of the day, everything is about money, and these people do it because of the money. So, how much money do they earn? So, if I'm interested in a trophy hunting at one of these captive farms, what am I looking to pay? And surely it must be in dollars because it's mostly overseas people who are contacting them. So, what am I looking? What will it cost me just for this trophy hunt?
So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point in terms of the percentages of who comes to do these hunts. And when we launched the film, I think it was 54% of all lions shot in South Africa were shot by Americans, and then there were a number of European nations that made up the next highest percentages. I think that might be different today because of what we've achieved in this campaign. But anyway, if you do get to watch the film in its full length, you'll see in the film we actually do a sting on one of the hunting operators, and they offer us, I think it's 15 lions on the internet. So like you would buy a pair of shoes by looking at a range, they do exactly the same in can hunting. They offer you 15 lions. They actually send you the photographs, and they come in various prices. So for the film, we could shoot a lioness for as little as $4,000-$5,000, and then of course up to a big black maned lion would be about $50,000. So you could take the average prices in that sort of $18,000 to $25,000 range to shoot one of these animals. And one of the reasons it's popular is because to shoot what they call a wild lion under fair chase hunting conditions, and that you would do in a country like Zimbabwe or Tanzania, where they've got expansive space, that can cost significantly greater sums, so $80,000, maybe even $100,000. So the benefits to the hunter for can hunting is that it's cheaper, and also you guarantee your kill because it's in a confined area. And thirdly, you can do it in a very short space of time. So you can fly in South Africa, and within a very short period of time, you can bag your lion and a whole lot of other game species as well. But So, if you're taking $25,000, and at the height of the campaign, at the film, there were over 1,000 of these lions being shot. But then we've got the other revenue streams. Then there's the cub petting. So they're charging anything from $50 to $100 for a 20-minute, half an hour session. There's the whole volunteerism session. When we made the film, these farms were taking 15, 20 volunteers, each of them paying $1,500, $2,000 for a 2-week stint on the farm. So then there's a whole variety of revenue streams here.
So you're getting free labor to come and look after these lions as well. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important point you make, because when they submit their submissions to the minister and they try and justify the industry, they talk about job creation. But in fact, it could very well be argued that they are actually destroying jobs, because foreign tourists and foreign gap year students, young children, teenagers and sub-adults come into this country. They think they are helping lions, making a contribution, and they're paying $1,500, $2,000 to spend 10 days, 2 weeks on these farms. And they are feeding these cubs, they're cleaning out their cages, so these farmers are actually got this incredible revenue stream, and at the same time, they're denying local South Africans work.
Yeah, so for me, if it was such a lucrative business and they were proud of what they're doing, then why all the secrecy? I mean, you hear this, them, they don't want you to shoot in the trailer, everything is under. So what's the reason for the privacy and the secrecy? And that at that time, I mean, you weren't exposing somebody who was a hunter at that time there. And the other thing is, you always get this defense, I'm not doing anything illegal. It's not a matter of being illegal. It's, am I engaging in unethical and immoral practices? And that's, as human beings, we need to ask, because the law is fallible. And while something might be legal, there's nothing, at the same time, it can be unethical and immoral. And for me, that's a big problem, because when somebody uses a defense is, it's not illegal, they know themselves what I'm doing is unethical and immoral, and their own inner compass is telling them that. So I'm just surprised, how did we get to the situation that there's so many of these farms out there? Is there some sort of control? How difficult it is if I myself, Miriam Mia, buys a farm, let's just say down the road there near Hartbeespoort side, and maybe a couple of hectares I have, and I want to apply for lion captivity. Is it a difficult process? Because if they're mushrooming all over, surely to obtain a license can't be that difficult.
Okay, so as of Sunday, it's now no longer possible, because the minister has put an immediate, our understanding of the announcement on Sunday, there's an immediate moratorium on any new facilities. So that's the great news. But prior to that, our legislation works in the following manner. We have the national authority or body, which is the department. So over the years, it's gone by various names. Right now, it's Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, and Minister Creasy heads that. They set guidelines, a framework, and then that gets taken down to the 9 provincial departments, and they then interpret that in different ways. So right now, across South Africa, we have different interpretations of the national framework that get implemented at the local level. So some provinces, it's very easy or much easier to keep lions in captivity and to shoot them. Northwest, Limpopo, Northern Cape, Free State, those are the worst areas. Places like here, the Western Cape, Mpumalanga, KZN, it's much more difficult. Eastern Cape is also an easy province. But in essence, if you've got private land and you have a 2-meter double-stranded electrified fence, and you write up for you're supposed to have a proper environmental impact assessment and a management plan to your local authority, you can keep, up until Sunday, you can keep predators on your property. And then with regards to the hunting of them, as long as you comply with the CITES regulations and the local, environmental regulations, you can shoot lions on your property. Just to relate back to what you were saying earlier, the legalities versus the morals and the ethics, and you're absolutely right. But it's murky because both are being transgressed. So there are legal issues involved. So, I've been investigating these industries for 25 years now, and come across a lot of illegalities. So, for example, the movement of predators illegally, using of the veterinary drugs illegally, crossing provincial boundaries illegally. So those types of transgressions, the permitting process, there have been all sorts of issues around that. So there have been some illegalities, but of course, you're absolutely right also on the moral and ethical issues. And so, many of these hunters will claim to be all about the fair chase and giving the animal a chance and ethical hunting. But there's nothing ethical about.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is
Wine
there
and
such a thing as ethical hunting in your time in wildlife? And that does this concept even exist, ethical hunting? Because for me, it's just a paradox, ethical hunting.
Yeah. So look, Mariam, if you're a hunter and it's part of your cultural heritage, I guess. I mean, then I guess you could make that distinction. I would say that any form of hunting, trophy hunting, where you're killing animals for fun, you're killing animals to hang its head on the wall, particularly at this point in time when Africa faces a biodiversity crisis. We are losing populations of animals, lions, leopards, elephants, rhino, to be able to justify that we can also still go out and kill them for fun. For me, is a big question mark over that line of thinking. So, yeah, so there's all sorts of ethical concerns around it, and of course, all sorts of legality concerns as well.
Ian, what I need to ask you is, so once a lion, I mean, in your experience when you were doing your investigating as well as documentary, once a lion shot, I mean, the head is famed. That's what everybody wants, to take it and put it, plaster it wherever, a sign of your wealth. I don't know of, I don't know what it is, a status symbol. I can only think of two things like this: power, wealth, status symbol. What do they do with the rest of the carcass? Is it left for vultures to eat, or what is it disposed? I'm just trying to think in a food chain, what happens to this? Because look, you know what? If you're hunting for food and you're hunting a springbok or wildebeest or that, you take it, you eat it, the remains it's all the circle of life. It's part of an ecosystem. I mean, even in the wild, it happens that everything gets eaten of this, because that's how nature intended it. But now with trophy hunting, what happens to the rest of the lion's carcass?
So yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. So in what they call free range hunting for wild lions in big areas, typically all they took was the head, and that was what was mounted. Sometimes you took the skin as well. But taxidermists are very good at recreating with fiberglass mounts, the body and all the rest of it. But today, the whole lion bone trade has become a whole new revenue stream. So when we actually paid to shoot a lion for the film, because we had to do that, we had to go through that process. We then decided not to shoot the lion, and when we told the operator that we're not going to shoot the lion, but we would like it to be, because we've paid for it, we had to pay them to get onto the farm. We asked them if we could have that lion relocated onto a sanctuary, and they said no, because if we read the fine print of the contract we had signed, they actually owned the skeleton of that animal. And so all we had paid for was the right to shoot it and to have its head. They had the right to keep the skeleton. And the reason for that is today they bag all the bones and they all go off to Asia, and they get used in the lion bone trade, tiger bone trade that takes place in parts of Asia. So today, no. I mean, a lion carcass is going to be used, the head for the trophy, the skin as well, the bones will go off, and there'll be another revenue stream. Teeth and claws get used in trinkets. So it's literally the whole carcass that will get used.
So even after the kill, there's still money to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that, a lot of people think that this is really only about canned hunting. That was the ugly face of this whole industry 20 years ago. But since then, it's become a much more industrialized industry, I guess, because the breeding is taking place on a significantly greater scale. So now you have the cub petting, which takes place when these animals they get taken away from their mothers at 10 days. And then you get revenue for 4 months. Hordes of kids and students and visitors, they go through these petting facilities. Then the lion gets a little bit too big, it starts biting. So then it goes into another revenue phase, and that's walking with lions. So then you pay more money to go and walk with the lions, and you go to half an hour or whatever it is to walk with these animals. And then, the males will get fattened up to be used as trophy hunts. A lot of others will be slaughtered and their bones will be bagged for Asia. Others then get sold off as breeding stock for other operators. And so, there's all these revenue streams. So it's an immensely brutal, as you heard me saying in the trailer, it's an immensely brutal industry.
But a very immensely lucrative industry. From I'm seeing it from a business point of view. As much as it's brutal, it's a very lucrative, and I can see resistance now coming with a normal. Oh, so many are going to lose their jobs here, and we're going to get the emotion there. You're going to have these in arms. Then they'll probably have a token person who was feeding so many people, family on the jobs and things like that. So I can see a backlash coming in terms of COVID times. We are providing jobs. We are getting the economy going. We're bringing foreign tourists in. We bring dollars here into much boost for tourism. So I can already see this because I hadn't thought about the aftermarket revenue stream that you said. And in Asia, people for lion bones, ears, for rhino horn, um, millions will be spent. So, Ian, thank you so much for joining us and for informing us and creating this awareness here. And we wish you well. And please continue your fight because you are champion South African, no doubt, champion African for that matter. And it's documentaries such as this that you bring to the fore that gets us, the public, aware. And you, by exposing this, we can also provide our voice and lend support to your campaign. So thanks so much for highlighting this. And I know it was a difficult movie, as you've explained, on all fronts, but we wish you luck. And please do continue as vigorously as you do in terms of continue to engage government. And hopefully, very soon, we can see this will be promulgated into law.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, peace and blessings and go well. Good afternoon. That was Ian Michler, Director of Blood Lions. And yes, horrifying. All I can say is horrifying, horrifying. In the name of money, this is what human beings have stooped to. And that is part of our responsibility as humanitarian journalists is to expose and highlight some issues because this affects humanity because it's part we belong. We are a small part of that huge ecosystem on Mother Earth. We're going to take a break and coming back, still sticking to the theme of preserving our environment. We're going to be speaking electric cars as well as electric charging docking stations.